Three, two, one. Welcome to Trades Educator Podcast, where we're trying to build a community of educators. I'm your host, Edward Logan. And on today's podcast, we have a special guest. I won't share too many details, but he is from the same institution that I teach in Ontario. His name is Claire Cornish. Claire, good morning. How are you doing?
How you doing, Ed? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. So how you ready for Christmas yet? I got all your Christmas shopping done?
Thank God that we have learned how to use the online shopping and maybe a little Amazon and then a little bit of storefront pickup. I live in a smaller town north of Whitby, and so we try to support our small stores here, obviously, in this pandemic time, and do a little online through the stores and pick it up physically distanced, as they say. So yeah, I'm getting
very
there.
Nice. Good. I know who you are. So I just want you to, if you could just introduce yourself, where you work, what you teach, and how long you've been teaching for.
Sure. So I'm a licensed tool maker, and my name is Claire Cornish, and I spent about 8 years on the tools, as they say, or on the bench. And I come from a family of educators, right back from my grandparents and my sister. And so I knew I always wanted to get into the education world. And after I finished my apprenticeship and was a journeyman, I started to take courses and was lucky enough to get hired by Durham College in 1999. And so I've been teaching since the summer of 99, and started out in our machining tool and die program, and then eventually transferred over to our millwright program now, where I teach a lot of the math and engineering drawings and kind of our machine shop and manufacturing processes. And so as a trades educator, we need to be versatile in the subjects that we teach. And as a full-time faculty member with going on 21 years now, it's transitioned into a more mentoring and onboarding, as we say, of contract teachers. And so I certainly enjoy the shops. I still advocate to my dean that we get in, and as full-timers we are able to work the tools and kind of show that we're able to do what we talk about in the theory classes. And I think that's a key attribute for a successful program, is that our students see our full-time teachers in working with their hands, especially in the trades education.
Yeah, true enough. No, that's a very good point. I believe in that too. Just I was going to say, when you started teaching, obviously you already had the interest of teaching, and you said you started taking courses. There's a lot of people that talk about, especially those of us who are in post-secondary. You kind of finish up on the Friday in your field, you pack up, and then the Monday you start teaching in a classroom for the very first time. So if you could you just kind of walk us through your experience, maybe your first day or first week, how it felt back then, and was it as smooth as you hoped it would be? And
well, so like I said, I started taking some courses, but those courses were a college kind of through a continuing education branch of Durham College, and how to teach adults. And so I was only really through the first course, and it was a lot about the psychology and sociology of adult learning. And so was lucky enough to find this full-time position ad and applied, got it. And literally, I don't know, we didn't script this, but yes, got the job on the Friday and started Monday morning we actually had a contract to teach for Magna. And Magna has their own training center in Brampton. So they told me, you're going to start Monday morning in Magna, and you're going to teach 5 hours of theory and 3 hours of shop. And then you're going to do it again on Tuesday, and you'll do it again on Wednesday. You'll come back here and spend Thursday trying to catch your breath. And then Friday, we got some more hours for you to teach here locally at our campus. And so for those full-timers and faculty now that are teaching 12, 18 hours a week, hey, we all know it's a grind in some respects, but 24 and then a few more on Friday when I first started really was a grind. So,
yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But I mean, it's I guess some people have mentioned it's like, I got baptized by fire, or whatever. At first I was thrown in there. I know myself that, I did the Durham College, the Jumpstart program, right? So I had that weekend 2-day crash course.
Yeah.
But it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. I look back at it now and I think to myself, 5 years, almost 6 years out, I look at it now as, well, maybe it wasn't so great now that I know what I know.
Hmm.
So I mean, obviously you've been in it for quite a while since then. So how do you feel like you've progressed? Like, how things have changed as do from day one to now?
I think when I first started, the internet was there. We just we didn't have the YouTube nearly the way we have now, and we didn't have communities like you're trying to do with this podcast. And honestly, I think what we had was a true spirit of journeyman apprentice, and I think that's why so many tradespeople are able to move on and be successful teachers, is because really at the core, if you're doing it for the right reason, it's an extension of on the job. You were a journey person and now you're training an apprentice. We can call them post-secondary students, but ultimately most of them are looking for an apprenticeship. So early on, it was tough. There wasn't a lot of resources, but our college thankfully had a cafe department, which is still going now, and there were people there that you could bounce ideas off of. I was lucky that I had some senior faculty working with me that were super in sharing and kind of took me under their wing. And I think one of the biggest things, the advice I got early on, was from a colleague who said, "Hey, Claire, seek first to understand." One of those 7 good habits from Stephen Covey, and
Yeah.
that's what I did. Is I just kept asking questions and volunteering and just trying to make inroads, and it's helped. And moving on now, I think some of our new hirees face the same challenges. But you know what, guys like yourself and I think of myself, try to have a community of best practices and share those, and with that, help smooth the transition. And then I love the onboarding process now because it brings currency to our program. I look at whoever's coming in, what they lack in maybe pedagogical strategies and pedagogical knowledge. They bring that on the job, and so we can
Yeah.
feed off of one another. And I think if you show them that initially, that hey, we love the fact that you're current, we love the fact that you're just recently did this, then you get the buy-in from them right away, and then they feel more engaged to ask you questions about the teaching side of it, right? So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I, I mean, I've only been like 5 or 6 years out from working, but it feels like now it even feels like a lifetime.
yeah.
So, like some of our part-time teachers who we teach with I teach with now, like I feel like I'm always asking questions, like, or they share something. I'm like, what is that? That's like something new I haven't even seen before. I'm like, it's only been 5 or 6 years, and there's this brand new thing out there that's happening, and I'm glad that you're here. You can share with me, right? So
Yeah.
it definitely is very important. Um, Talking about that, but the knowledge and that kind of stuff. How did you back in March? As you know, we had the wonderful great pivot thanks to COVID-19, and
Yeah.
I guess we're still in that mode. We're not, I guess we pivoted, but we're still in the different world that we live in. When you first experienced that back in March, I don't know exactly what were you teaching, shop classes? Were you teaching like theory-based classes at the time? And how was it when you first initially, that shock of we're now locked down and we have to do it a different way?
Yeah, so I was teaching in the shop and theory as well, and in a engineering drawing or a blueprints class, and so I kind of had the luxury of having a traditional hybrid delivery that I had worked on for the past 15, 16 years in my blueprints class and my theory class. So my students were already a little familiar with, hey, this portion is going to be done online. But honestly, the online was more of a self-directed, self-paced. It wasn't video conferencing like we're doing here and using those tools. The shop portion was obviously we couldn't continue. And so we were lucky enough that we were already at the 80% factor, and we could move them along to the next year, to year 2. I teach a first year shop class, And so, we made a commitment to those students that what they didn't finish, we would absorb that into or integrate that into our second year. And so, the initial challenge, absolutely. And, I think there was a whole bunch of hurdles to overcome the initial shock of this. And am I doing it right? And working with my colleagues and figuring out software and hardware issues and all that. But over the summer, I think our program in particular has made great strides. We've looked to, establish consistency in the softwares that we use and how we communicate and our expectations. And so, quite frankly, I'm enjoying the online portion, but that goes back to my previous history at the school, starting online way back in 2004. So.
Yeah, and so you, so yeah, it's good you work together as a team now, trying to work out the kinks and stuff. So since March, so for sure, you think it's got a lot better. And is there anything that you guys have done differently in this time period that you think that potentially could carry forward in the future when kind of things get back to normal as far as the health goes in the world?
Yeah, we've talked about it as a program team, and I use the analogy about the horses being out in the field and can't put them back in the barn. I'm not saying that online needs to stay forever. I'm saying that let's pick the best horses and leave them out in the field and let them run with these tools and work with these tools, and let's put some back in the barn. And so, for an example, we used to spend a lot of time reviewing for a test, and we took up valuable class time and doing that. And my suggestions now are, let's not review for a test in class time. Let's put that on as a pre-recorded review or tutorial, meet them online and do that. The ones who need it and want it will join us. The ones who feel like they're already prepared for that test, now you've given them the option of whether they need to or not. Same thing with taking up a test. Depending on the course, but in our trade, things have got compacted over the years, and our expectation is we still follow that curriculum and get it finished, but we've, quite frankly, had less hours to do it in the last few years. And so let's strategically decide what works online and what's better for face-to-face, and we look at that moving forward. The other big thing is, and I know people have heard this term, but the flipping of the classroom. And it's something that I tried to experiment with 3 years ago, didn't work well. And it was because there was no opportunity really with the tools to do the video conferencing and for students to bounce ideas off of me outside of the classroom. And so now I really look at it and say, hey, we can flip this classroom. There's so many basic competencies in the trades that I believe can be done ahead of the class time, like a theory. And then you come in that theory as, the quote unquote subject matter expert, and you facilitate that discussion around what they've already kind of pre-worked through online or outside of the classroom. And I think it goes around mindset. We can do it in the trades. We just have to mentor it and demonstrate it and be positive about it right from day one with our students.
And I don't know how you feel the same way about this. I was thinking about the other day too, where a lot of people are saying it's hard to be online, right? And I can understand that, because I started thinking back. I'm like, yeah, if they've never been online when they've been in grade school and high school, it's all been face to face. So when they come to a post-secondary institution and it's online, and I probably more so for the trades, because they're thinking, people always have a little misconception about the trades. It is hands-on, but there is components, like you're saying, that can be delivered in different methods, like online. That I think that maybe in the future, if there is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but with the kids being online right now, who are in say high school right now, and some have been doing it for a couple of years, maybe it might make it easier for them, right? And my only worry about that is it's a different kind of social environment, right? You don't get that, the kids don't get to intermingle the same way. Is that bad? Is that good? I just wonder what you think about
Yeah.
that.
So I really, and I can talk from experience that back 2004, when I first started working online with a partnership with Sioux College in our alternate, we call it alternate delivery of our millwright apprentices, literally every email was about how do I log in? How do I change my password? Where do I find the test? And it wasn't about curriculum. And quite frankly, I think by the time they got through those hurdles, the apprentices, they were dead in the water. They had given up in that medium, and slowly over since 2004, the last 5 6 years, we get none of those emails. The students are, I call them roadblocks. The students are able to leap over those roadblocks totally on their own. They're used to having to change their password, log in, go look for things. And so the internet, different softwares aren't intimidating. So I really think that those quote unquote excuses that I hear from some apprentices, they don't fly anymore. And especially now in the next few years moving forward, because they've had a good year and a half of doing online education through their high schools. And there's going to be a level of expectation. I think that, hey, part of my courses are going to be online. If you look at our school, we already do it with our gen ed courses in our post-secondary department. So
Yeah.
I think it goes back again, though, to those initial discussions with students around what are the great things about online. For instance, I just had a discussion with a student last week, and I didn't even think of this, but he said, I love your lectures, Claire. It's not because of your great voice or anything like this. What I love about it is you never have your back to me. Your arm is never in the way of the whiteboard, and you're not talking into the whiteboard. And I thought, wow, like that totally makes sense. And so I'll bet you my delivery, just in the physical part of that, is so much better in the
Yeah.
sense, think of yourself every time you turn to the whiteboard, because as trades,
Yeah.
we're making little sketches and
Yeah.
drawing
Yeah.
all the time. We're picture type learners. And I think every time I've done that in the last 20 years, my back, I know we try to turn to the side, but let's be
Yeah.
honest, it happens.
It
And
happened. Yeah, I
so
know.
now I'm teaching like to you right now, and I'm using Microsoft OneNote or a whiteboard built into Zoom, wherever you're doing it, you're not faced with that. And the other big thing is, and that's why I encourage our colleagues all the time, you got to record your lectures, guys, because then they can scrub back.
Yeah.
All of our students never had the opportunity to scrub back before. And I think that empowers them, but you've got to communicate those positives to them when you see them in the shops, when you get the opportunity to have those times. And to your point about intermingling, I think that's part of our shop class that maybe, I don't know in your department, Ed, but in ours, we were always, here you come, you're coming into the shop, you're going to get to work, and away you go. I think we got to build in some of that. Hey, let's have some time just for some idle chatter. Let's
Yeah.
talk about how's things going in your life, even if it's just 10 minutes, a safe environment where they can get that opportunity to have that physicalness
Yeah.
to it. Right?
I think even I like kind of similar to you because I've been doing a lot online, so I haven't been doing anything at the college. But I take that time when I first go online and say, okay, let's just have a little chit chat, right? What's been
Yeah.
going on? I tell them some crazy stories. I got 3 boys at home and a dog, and I've had some days where it's just been crazy. I tell them that they start laughing. They go, yeah, just imagine you had my life today. It was kind of a little bit of a all over the place, but it was good because then they loosen up a bit. It's almost like that classroom feel that we normally would have
Yeah.
that they're missing that 5 minutes before, that 5 minutes after, where they can just kind of talk to you and get to know you, right? And
I, I,
or each other.
there's a lady that I listened to her podcast and I've watched her TED Talks, Brene Brown. I don't know if you've heard of her, but the one that really struck me a year and a half, 2 years ago was about vulnerability. And I think that's where you demonstrate as a teacher, your comfort with vulnerability and saying, hey, this is going on in my house right now. Like, hey, this is crazy. But then you're able to show that level of being a pro where you can kind of flick the switch and teach and do that. And so it's uncomforting sometimes, but I think if we're able to do it as teachers and show that, hey, we can be vulnerable, then we're relinquishing some of that power to them to feel
Yeah.
comfortable in those situations.
Oh no, yeah, I agree totally, totally. At first, it was hard. It's hard to do because you're a little bit right. You think about I got to be the teacher, and I can't, you
Yeah.
know, can't give them like a little bit of the power kind of thing. You get a little, it's nervous, right?
Yeah.
What should I share? What should I not share? But I definitely think it's true, like you're saying. It helps to bring that bond together. What I want to do is I want to dig a little more into because you mentioned the online and your online history, and I might have mentioned to you before in the past that I didn't know about this online the trades was going on at our campus for so long. If you could tell me about the your history with the online teaching.
Sure. So it goes back to even pre when I was hired. One of our electrical faculty, David Dewar, pioneered it, and he looked at his code course and thought, "Hey, this could be done online." Sioux College had a dean or principal, maybe they called them back then, and she's still working, Corey Menier, and she was extremely progressive and still is. And so had a need to service the North, but they didn't have TDA status, training delivery agent for electrical or for millwright. And so I don't know how Dave and her met, but they got together and they started what we call now an alternate delivery. So fast forward a few years, I got involved in 2004. And basically, up until now, we train level ones, level twos, and level threes. What happens is they do all of their theory online with us through our LMS, DC Connect now. And they go to the Sioux College on one Friday a week for 8 hours, and they do their practical classes. And it works extremely well because they don't have to leave Sault Ste. Marie, or they can come to Sault Ste. Marie Thursday night, stay over in a hotel, do their school, and go back home. And so some of the challenges that they experience up there are alleviated by this delivery method. And like I've said to you before in passing was, the challenge was initially is getting that kind of support from management and support from just colleagues that yes, this is a viable tool. Moving along into 2012, 2014, my colleague of mine approached me and said, "Hey, there's some money to study apprenticeship," and so we did a study through HECO and looked at both traditional day release apprentices that we taught at Durham College and our alternate delivery, and we looked at student satisfaction, retention, and then ultimately, statistics around pass fails. And as it turns out, our alternate delivery students did really well, had really good student feedback, and on the CFQ, their certificate exam, their stats were every bit as good, if not a little better than our day release, which hurts me because I teach day release too. Yeah. But you know what? One of the reasons why is because from talking to them and getting the feedback is that once they got over that hurdle that, okay, this is the mode of delivery and I'm in this and I'm invested, they were really self-directed and really disciplined. And, the fact of, doing multiple choice questioning and going back and reviewing and pairing the questions with the unit material and going over quizzes multiple times, just got them in that mode to better prepare them for their certificate of qualification exam. So that's where we're at. I feel that, and it's still going now. A colleague of mine has a cohort of 14 level threes that are finishing off. I should say too, one of the advantages to this mode of delivery is that they can go to the school and do their practical on Fridays for 8 straight hours, which allows them to finish up in about 14 weeks. And so we have had a cohort start off in the fall as level twos and then go back, work for 5-6 months, and then come in the spring. And we've taught them, their level 3 in the spring. And we've been able to do it, what do they call it, off cycle now,
Yeah.
In the spring or even, into the summer. Does it take flexibility from us as teachers? Absolutely. But again, that goes back to what I said before. If your heart's in the right place, then, there's times that you will negotiate with your manager, and we have that right, and
Yeah,
make it work for a bigger piece than just you as the faculty member. So, yeah.
that's good. And over the time since you've been involved in it, have you seen any expansion through any other programs, or have you had any outreach from, or is it kind of just been you guys on your own, and no one's kind of discovering it, or?
Uh, at our school, it's been pretty well us. I think what you need is that you need another school to, in our kind of delivery with the alternate delivery and using it with partnering with another school, you need that need somewhere. We explored that need with St. Clair in Windsor and with Lambton in Sarnia, but didn't get off the ground, and that's okay. I know the electrical department did it for a few years with the Sioux College, and they looked at other areas as well. But you know what? I think it depends where programs want to go, and if they see that we know that there's a catch basin of an area that is under maybe serviced, and so we can help them with this way. So.
And I'm just wondering if we could even, if we don't even have a college, another college to partner with, maybe integrating this into our institution as a whole. So with our apprentices coming in, maybe we do that the same idea where the theory continues online, and then they have the practical. Do you think that's a potential, or?
I do, and I've always been an advocate that the day release program is tough because it's spread out from end of August all the way through to May. What invariably happens is you get third year apprentices who are integral parts of their company. Now you have that push-pull relationship between employers saying, hey, I don't want to lose you today, and things like that. And so if we some of the courses that lend themselves to being done online, move them online with an expectation that, hey, we work on these on our off days where we're not at school for a day release, then we could add more time to the shops in that day that they come, and we could get them finished earlier, right? Other big aspect that we haven't touched on, but that I was involved with initially was through Ontario Learn with the online consortium, and we offered the courses as online courses that apprentices could just go and pick up if they weren't successful in their traditional day release or block release. So that gave students an option to stay in their cohort. Whereas, right now in some trades, I don't know about plumbing, but in our trade, if you fail one course and your GPA is too low, you're done for that entire year and you have to come back. And that's disappointing. And so the online aspect, I think, gives apprentices that opportunity to go and cherry pick certain courses if they weren't successful, right? And so they can stay in the stream, as I say, and finish with their cohort.
And is sorry, because that's something new to me. So is that something that is still existing, or?
So again, I was involved with Ontario Learn and put all of our millwright theory courses up there. And then for whatever reasons, a little bit of internal stuff at the school, I backed away from that. And I'm not sure whether that's honestly still going or not. I think, again, it's one of those things. And I know our union as full-time faculty, there's always that little bit of push-pull, yin-yang relationship around online, and especially, between 2004 and 2018-19 here. But, I look forward to the next few years that the union and management or the college council can get together and hash out and say, okay, this is how we're going to properly attribute the work that's done online and give the value that's necessary there. And so then we can explore lots of different ideas around online and where it fits and make strategic decisions around how it helps students, right?
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap things up a little bit. So putting all that stuff aside, the extra stuff with the obviously union and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
If you could envision it, after the pandemic now, where do you think trades could go with all this different ways to deliver? Where do you envision it maybe going one day that it hasn't gone as a whole?
Well, I guess if I really, and my wife is a nurse, and so we talk about some of the things in the medical world that are out there as leading edge and cutting edge, and I know that there's virtual surgeons now working on people and things like that. I've always said there are such basic things, and so maybe in plumbing it's lighting the torch, and for automotive it's tightening a bolt. There's things where I think we can utilize tools that we can virtually show students. And then, whether that's a full online class, I don't think you can ever replace the hands-on. But what you can do is you could find some tools and use some tools to make better videos, how-to videos, instructional videos, so that when they come in, they can not only identify and describe components, at your lowest level of the taxonomy, but now they can get right in and away they go. And because they can draw on those videos, we're fortunate enough over the last couple of years to get, TVs and computers and Wi-Fi in our shops. So we now are trying to do that where if a student missed a shop class, we can go back and say, hey, you need to watch these videos. You need to finish this quiz online to prove to us you can identify and describe and work safely. And then we'll get you back up to speed. Yeah. That's where I really think the online and the tools can go to help us in the trades education world.
And I lied there. I have one more question, still with a surprise question. So there's no skeletons in the closet. So with a little bit of research, I know that you're a hockey legend in the area.
I wouldn't say legend. I played a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I played a little bit of hockey, right? Yeah, and for the Oshawa Generals to be exact. And if I'm not mistaken, you won the Memorial Cup with them.
Yes, I did.
With Eric Lindros, I think was leading the way. I think if I remember correctly at that time.
Yeah, I think anyone who's listening to this eventually will remember his name. I tell people I used to carry his water bottles. That was my job.
But I did when I was doing that, when I realized that you were also did some coaching in the area too as well, and so I'm just kind of interested because who have taught and who have actually coached before, and about how they've been able to use the skills from coaching into their teaching. So I'm just wondering how do you feel about that from your coaching experience, how you maybe use that or integrate it into your teaching?
I made a strategic decision back 2012. My son was playing hockey and I was coaching him and his friends, and they were pretty young, and it wasn't for me. And the coaching was for me, but that age group wasn't for me. And so I made a strategic decision to move to junior hockey, which are guys from 16 to 21. And, a lot of the trades students that we have are guys from 18 and through. And I think there's two hats. There's the coaching hat and then there's the teaching hat. And so my coaching hat at school is, I have a mantra, be a pro. And I go back to that and I tell that to my students the first day. Here's how I live, be a pro. So if you're late to class, ask yourself, am I being a pro? And so if you're going to be late, hey, give somebody the notice, or, wait and don't interrupt while I'm talking. All of these little, be a pro ideas. That's my coaching. And that's the kind of time to know, when does this student need, I say it, show the love. When do they need to see some love from you that, hey, it's okay. Hey, you might not be picking this up as fast as John is or as fast as Sue is, but we're going to get there together. And the other thing that I do from a coaching standpoint is, in all of my shop classes, I tell them, you know what, we're a team. And so if somebody's down, somebody's not feeling well, somebody's not getting it, I need leaders. I need a captain today who's going to take on this for me because I'm over here helping. And I try to strategically utilize those different roles in my shop classes. And it all kind of just comes back to that be a pro method and utilizing some coaching skills there. That's kind of what it is. And I think the show the love thing is tough with the young guys,
Yeah.
but I say it to them. I say, hey, two things. I'm going to show you the love when you need it, and I'm going to be a little tough when I think you need it too.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer too in the body language. And I say to them, when you come in here with your head hanging down and your shoulders rolling forward, I know there's something going on in your life. So if you don't want to share, that's fine. But I'm a big believer in that body language too, and that kind of goes to the coaching more than the teaching of the curriculum, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very often.
At the end of the day, it's all about personal relationships, isn't it, Ed?
And for sure.
I think that's where you get, you get students to buy into, hey, this guy's authentic, and this guy is got my best interests at heart, and it's not a job to him. And I've had a lot of students, if I was to toot my own horn, I've had a lot of students say to me, you don't even treat this as a job. And I'm like, no, it's not a job. It's about, sometimes I'm your other dad. Sometimes I'm your buddy. Sometimes I'm here as your teacher. So we walk those lines, but they're fun.
That's true. No, we walk many lines for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you for doing this today with me and joining and sharing all this wonderful stuff, and I really appreciate it. And I'm sure I'll be able to get a lot of it. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me, and good luck with it. And again, congratulations on your award, Ed. And I always say there's lots of people out there doing great things, and it's always nice to get those accolades. So keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Cheers, Ed. Bye.